Yo, what's going on, everybody? Thank you all for tuning in. Cody Von Dell here. Today, we're actually going to take a little time away from tutorials and learning stuff, just kind of talk about the ebbs and flows of creativity. Life kind of throws some curveballs at you sometimes, and I'd say the past year or so, I've had some serious curveballs, maybe even longer than that. So just kind of here to talk about a little bit of like my personal experience trying to stay creative during uncertain times. That's kind of where I've been lately. So let's rewind it a little over a year ago. If you guys recall, when I was doing the Y2K aesthetic fonts, best free fonts series, that was a really fun time for me. I was having a lot of fun doing it. It was a really great situation. The landlord was awesome, but he was selling the house. He was moving to a different state, and he said, guys, I got to sell the house. I know it's unexpected. I'm really sorry about it. And he was really cool about it, but it's one of those things where unexpectedly I had to find a different place to live. And that was not something that I was like super keen on. I was, getting ready to teach my second semester as a motion graphics teacher at a university, and it was just a lot of things kind of going on. So feeling rushed, ended up moving into a place that I didn't research enough, and the place was actually kind of dangerous, and my house got robbed and completely ransacked. And it was a pretty traumatizing experience. Like looking back, I had a 16-year-old cat. At the time she was 15. And it was traumatizing for her. It happened when I was not at home. I was in the office working with one of my clients one day, and I came back. Everything that I owned had been scattered across the house. It was just crazy. What they did was absolutely nuts. I couldn't believe what had happened. And it kind of led me on this down this like rabbit hole of kind of trying to figure out, like, is this where I need to be? I'm in my mid-30s. I moved here in my early 20s. Atlanta served its purpose for me, but do I need to be here at this point? It feels like most of the stuff that I do, most of the audience that I'm connecting with is online. I'm at my house developing ideas, looking at things that I look at, that I grew up with and loved, and trying to make cool stuff out of that. I'm not out doing a lot of nightlife kind of stuff, a lot of going out doing events, and I was at one point, but that was a decade ago. And then at the same time, YouTube, like everything doing like my videos and stuff like that, was just kind of up in the air. So I decided to just get out of Atlanta and just kind of try to experience a change of pace. It was just too much. Traffic is crazy. It was just something that I just wanted to just kind of change of pace. So with all that kind of behind me, coming to Virginia, feeling like this is the area that I grew up in, kind of a place I'm familiar with, not necessarily, where I wanted to be when I was in my 20s, but in my 30s, it makes sense. There's family here. There's all types of old stuff of mine in storage that I can dig out. It just felt like it was making a little bit more sense. Why not move to a place that's only 5.5 hours from the city that I've been in, but at the same time, it's like, I'm just not out in the city doing as much as I am online, on my computer, creating stuff, connecting with an online audience. And I appreciate that online audience. It's a community. There's a lot of creatives over on the server, and it's just something I'm very thankful for. And the more I got thinking about it, it's like, this is where my passion is. It's creating stuff, selling it on Etsy, fun tutorials and stuff like that. It's not necessarily being out in the nightlife, doing the shows and stuff like it was for me, in the 2000s and in the 2010s. Life kind of hits different in your 30s. That was kind of my idea. Get out of the city. It was a wake-up call. And in retrospect, I'm actually really glad it happened. I'm glad I got robbed because it pushed me in a new direction. And sometimes life does that. Sometimes you get pushed in an unexpected area. And that's kind of one of the things I'm talking about, is staying creative in uncertain times. So when that was happening, I was deciding like, okay, I'm going to move and all this and that. And I didn't really have a whole lot of stuff going on with tutorials and all that kind of stuff, but I was staying busy posting the metro breaks, all the samples of little beats and stuff that we were doing back in the 2000s when I was doing CBZL and all my like electro-punk stuff, industrial pop. It was a really fun time, and I figured, that's nearly 20 years old. There's kind of a resurgence in that early internet aesthetic and stuff, obviously. So why not kind of push out some old stuff and kind of, recycle some stuff while I'm kind of figuring life out and kind of figuring out the next thing. So that's another good thing. After you've been creative for as long as I've been doing it, I'm in my mid-30s, I've been creative since I was a kid, you can sometimes fall back on old stuff. And that's another thing, kind of realizing, hey, I don't have to push something new. I can recycle some old stuff in a brand new way. I can recycle the CBZL Age of Arcade aesthetic for a brand new audience. I just kind of did that for a few months while I was kind of getting situated and in a new place. And then the holidays came up. I was teaching. We did the Von Dell Discord server mixtape volume 3. I did this little comedy skit kind of revisiting literally CBZL from 2008, having a fun time. And I figured, start of the new year, January, I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna be back on YouTube. I'm gonna make some fun tutorials. I had some stuff planned out, the Fruitiger fonts, kind of a sequel series to the best Y2K fonts. And then my cat passed away, and that was one of the hardest things I've dealt with. And I had that cat for 16 years almost, just shy of 16 years. She passed a week before my birthday, and it was just a rough time for me. And I had her for so long, since the 2009. So I got her when I was 20, lost her right before I turned 36. It was a really sad experience. The night that she passed, I started drawing a little cartoon version of her, and it just kind of felt like a therapeutic way to kind of deal with that trauma. That's a part of being an artist, is you kind of take out your emotions. I try to be positive about it. I don't want to put out things that aren't positive. I want to put out things that are positive. So I decided to turn my cat into a character, a sidekick for my mascot Googie. And that was another thing I was kind of thinking in January. I was like, I want to expand the Googie lore. I have some ideas for a story and all this kind of stuff. And then when my cat passed, it was just like, man, I went through 2 months where I just was not doing anything. Just sulking and kind of grieving and kind of experiencing loss. But at the same time, very thankful, because where I live right now, I kind of have these little extra cats that kind of show up. They're feral, they're outside, but they're really sweet. And they've kind of been hanging out, and they've kind of been a way for me to kind of process that grieving and losing my cat, along with also just kind of put me in this position where it's like, hey, I've always wanted to make a toy. Quick change of pace really quick. I've been talking with one of my best friends, Thin Dragon, lately about how, like, as creators, we're kind of like on like different arcs, and sometimes those arcs kind of happen simultaneously. And I've been on some sort of different creative arcs. I've been on this arc trying to create a toy out of a character of mine that's based on my cat. Yeah, I always wanted to make a toy. That's always been a thing. Growing up, I always played with toys as a kid. I loved my Z-Bots, Sonic, Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. In the 2000s, when I was playing Jet Set Radio and all that kind of stuff, I started getting into like a Kid Robot at a really young age. I had a skateboard magazine. In it, they had this whole spiel about Kid Robot. I remember just seeing that stuff and being like, dude, this is like Jet Set Radio, but toys. And so at the time, I got Posers, Philly Filter. It's probably like 2001, 2002. So I just got really into that kind of stuff and continued to collect little kind of Kid Robots, odds and ends and stuff like that. And as you get older, like, some people get into the whole retro collecting. And I've never been like a super completionist by any means, but I've always kind of been a nerd for finding cool little odds and ends from the past, maybe from before my time, from the 80s, like finding like this whole decade of stuff from before I was around. I had that realization as a 90s kid. And that might be a whole nother video, is that realization of the world that was around before you were around, and that kind of urge to experience something you never got. But that's a whole nother video. Anyway, so collecting odds and ends, sit on my desk and on my shelf, growing up throughout my teens and 20s and stuff. At this stage, it's just like I collected a lot of cool stuff. I continue to collect a lot of cool stuff. So we're gonna be showing off some of that kind of stuff. And I just want to start making my YouTube channel more about my process, my different creative arcs, trying to turn my character of my cat into a toy, something collectible, something you can feel like 6-inch vinyl figure, something, or maybe even like a little collectible, like one color kind of thing, kind of tossing around, trying to talk with different manufacturers about that kind of stuff. Yeah, about 10 years ago, I used to do a lot of stickers and pins and patches, and I did some t-shirts and stuff like this, and it just feels like, man, that was a long time ago. And I feel like I've grown a lot as an artist. I've really established myself off of the whole Dreamcast, Genesis, Jet Set Radio kind of feeling kind of stuff. And I feel like it's just a good time to kind of get back into creating real stuff, stickers, shirts, pins, patches, different things like that. So I've been really focused on that. My next tutorial, I've got a few of them kind of planned, but obviously we're gonna look at some more of those Fruitiger font kind of things like that. But I'm gonna look at kind of, put some graphics on a skateboard recently. I think that's really cool. I also put a bunch of graphics on some t-shirts. They're all available on my Etsy. If you want to show some support, you can go over there, pick them up. I made them as cheap as possible, so it's like you can totally afford them, like $20 a piece. They've got front graphics, back graphics. Here's a little montage, just kind of showing off what I got. And if you use code GRAPHICT on my Etsy right now, you can save 5% on any t-shirt purchase. Appreciate you all. But yeah, that's where I'm at, you guys. Just very appreciative that we have the server. I've not been really taking YouTube very seriously for a year now, and the fact that the server just hit 3,000, we're still growing over there. Instagram and X and Etsy and all that kind of stuff. You guys are over there, and I greatly appreciate all that. And it's like, I'm very thankful for the community that we've built together, and that's something that's very important to me. And that's kind of why I realized, like, my community, we're online with it. I'm gonna be in Atlanta as frequently as possible without actually living there. And it's just one of those kind of things. You just kind of realize that, hey, I think it's better to grow as an artist and kind of go with the flow. Life is gonna throw you curveballs, and you gotta kind of run with it. And you don't always have to stay creative. Sometimes you can take 2 months to kind of deal with it. And when you bounce back, it's gonna be a fun time. So I appreciate you guys kind of just hanging out with me and just kind of listening to me talk about it. And we're not even looking at graphics today. We're just kind of talking about life as a creative. So appreciate you guys. I'm sure some of you guys can identify with what I'm talking about, things unexpected. So ebbs and flows of life, staying creative in uncertain times. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons for making what I do possible. Thank you guys.